Oh yeah, we'll definitely call this progress. All right, full disclosure at the top of this video, Google sent over these earbuds as I'm a part of hashtag Team Pixel. And I have been paid by Google to do some consulting, hosting, and sponsored work in the past. So I'm reluctant to call a video here a review. I'm not being paid to do this video, but I've done some paid work with their PR. But I still wanted to share some thoughts on these buds, especially after getting to speak with some of the product engineers on the Pixel Audio team. It was kind of cool getting a little behind the scenes insight on how these buds were made. The second generation of Google's true wireless in the ear earbud strategy here leans hard on refinement, touching up some of the concerns from the 2020 Pixel Buds, finding a way to reduce costs and still delivering some cool tech tricks. Thankfully, a lot of this can be abbreviated. The design, the earbud housing, the charge case, nearly identical to the 2020 Pixel Buds. In the ear, true wireless, but with a vent to help with ear pressure and situational awareness. Such small driver housings, hopefully a more comfortable fit for folks with smaller ears. And I still love this little stabilizer arm that helps seat the earbud in the bowl of your ear. And for folks who don't like that sensation of deep IEMs, these do sit a little more shallow in the ear canal. The battery and the case specs are pretty much the same as the 2020 buds. I did get close to 5 hours on my first full charge walking around, and there are about 4 full additional charges in the case. Google rates this whole battery setup for a full day of playback. Now, we do lose wireless charging in the case to hit a lower price point. I know some folks are going to be really upset about that, especially the case for the 2020 buds won't work to charge the Buds A series. It didn't much bother me because I just don't use that many wireless pads around my house anymore. The thing that's missing that does personally bum me out just a little bit, I really miss volume controls by swiping, which was so cool. The touch controls here are fantastic. The touch sensitivity, you don't need to jam the earbud deeper into your ear to push a clicky button, but I wish we could add volume controls to one of the tap commands. Play, pause, skip tracks, Google Assistant. I wish we could fit left ear and right ear for volume up and volume down. Google Assistant integration is a geeky way to control the volume, but not as immediate or accessible as direct on-bud volume control. But these are earbuds, and the most important question we should be asking is, how do they sound? I really like this tuning. Out of the box, a lot of you in my comments probably aren't gonna like this. Google is taking a slightly larger single driver and is tuning towards a more open and airy sound. And that means we get a lot more focus on a flatter EQ that lifts the mids and speech, especially human vocals, above where a lot of buds set that audio. A series is going to sound thin compared to a number of buds in this price tier. I prefer a focus on detail and articulation, so I'm happy to roll off the lows to get that clarity. And it really shines on tracks that naturally have a sense of air and location to them, like classical and jazz. They just feel so open for a pair of consumer earbuds. But I do feel a lot of people are gonna think this is weak sauce when they fire up club tracks, electronica, or hip hop. All those people used to not only a smiley face EQ, but a new trend in deep V tuning, which can really gut the mids in favor of more bass and sub bass. Now, there is a bass boost mode on the A series, which helps round out the lows, bring some bottom back into the conversation, but it's not gonna drive like the more colorful dual driver earbuds available today. If you're not hyped on the mega bass train, these should get you to some fun clarity and articulation. Though you might need to tweak a little to get the mids and lows you want. The tech concern I have for the buds is the volume leveling mode. As louder sounds are detected around you, the buds will adjust the volume for you to compensate. It's a feature carried over from the 2020 buds, and it works better than I thought it would. If I'm walking around my block and a car passes me from behind, the A series are turning up the sound as the car is passing my shoulder. It's surprisingly effective. One, for being so good at delineating between environmental noise and wind impacting the mics, and two, for being as reactive as it is. It adds a technical awareness which is subtle, but surprisingly effective. It reacts just fast enough that if I'm on foot, it's a sense of traffic around me. Oh, the volume is turning up, and there goes a car near me. While walking, I can almost count on this effect like an alert. I don't know if I were jogging or riding a bike, I would trust it quite the same way, but it's just good enough that it complements my awareness while I'm walking across an intersection. However, I wish the volume recovery were a little faster though. The volume turns up quick, but a car can be almost 2 blocks away before the earbuds start to turn back down again. I don't want this to be constantly fading up and down. That would be distracting, so the recovery should definitely be slower, but I could maybe cut the volume drop time by a third and still be really happy. Because the other concern I have is how loud these can get. Having a vented in-ear design means we get a lot less passive noise reduction. And if you want the clarity of your audio to rise above the noise around you, you need to turn up the volume. Now the buds don't just crank the volume. They finagle the EQ and compress the audio to help the music sound louder without just jacking up the pressure. Still, I personally get a little anxious when loudness is taken out of my control. What's still disappointing in Android land, I can't seem to set a hard upper limit like I can on an iPhone. The Pixel Buds would be perfect candidates for a volume window or a volume limit because of this adaptive volume trick. So I hope we get something like that in a future update. And I have actually sent that note to some of the Pixel product managers directly. All right. Like I said at the top of this video, my relationship to the Team Pixel crew makes this normal review pattern a little different here. And I'm not looking to drop the same kind of review conclusion, buy or don't buy, worth it's or not worth it's. What I personally find refreshing is a focus and a cost savings which doesn't wreck key features from the more expensive Pixel Buds in 2020. There are some interesting choices at play, but each of those choices has a very specific reason why it exists. And I think there's a clear focus on sound tracking other activities and trying to augment the ubiquitous computing idea of other Google Assistant enabled products, streamlining some of the more techie aspects of true wireless and making them more accessible to consumers. There are some pretty high level ideas packed into these tiny little buds that after a point, you just stop thinking about that kind of use. This blends into the background of your day. Probably the best place to put a pin in this video. I hope you've enjoyed this product overview, some of my thoughts on this product, and there will certainly be some follow-up videos you should watch from some of my other review pals like Scott Peachy, TK Bay, Josh Vergara, Jay Williams, and a bunch of others. I'm always going to dig on more audio tech conversations, especially happier and healthier listening. I'll throw some links in the description for more info on the Pixel Buds A-series, where you might be able to shop these buds online. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel, supporting your favorite content creators, especially like the gentleman that I just listed a second ago, has never been more critical than it is today. So I greatly appreciate those of you who are. You're out there checking out our descriptions, the links below, maybe you're shopping some merch. That kind of stuff really does help keep production rolling on our channels. For me personally, there's a full list of all my affiliates and partnerships on SomeGadgetGuy.com, or you might consider, just maybe, joining the list of names scrolling by on your screen from my Patreon, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list is basically a collection of the coolest tech pals on the web, so I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, not so much on the Facebooks, sometimes on the Instagrams, and I will catch you all on the next video.